Okay, now I just want to check. Does everybody see what I see on my screen?
The copier definitions dialog. Yes.
Are you seeing? Okay, so let me go ahead and let me just double check, and let me go to PrintSmith. And okay, so you can all see the copier definition window.
Not now.
I did until about 2 seconds ago.
You did? Now you don't see it anymore? All right, let me go ahead and how about now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we're good to go. I believe the recording is in place, and so I'm going to go ahead and bring it back up and mute you all again, and then we'll get going. All right, so okay, so we're going to go ahead today. We're going to go ahead and talk about copier definitions. So under the pricing menu, you'll find your copier definitions, and I'll indicate it again. Oops, I just lost it. Under pricing, you have your copier definitions. So when I open up the window, I'm going to go ahead and see a list of my current copier definitions. And at the top, you can see I have what my default black and white, default color, my default large format, what my copier definition name is, and what group I want this definition in. So when I click on the first one, you can see this is the one I'm selecting as my default black and white. And basically what this means is that when I go ahead and I create a job and I click on my black and white copier, that's the copier that it's going to drop into the system automatically by default right here. Okay? So that's all that means when I select any copier definition as the default one. The groupings of them, this is what allows me to say, okay, when I click on the black and white copier in my job window, and I'll do it again, and I'll click on black and white, and I'll select the stock, doesn't matter, and I'll save. Okay, what that means is that when I come into my job itself, those are the only copier definitions I'll have access to. This way, somebody won't accidentally pick a color copier when they're doing a black and white copy job or a large format. So you can see my 3 copier definitions that are highlighted here or that are in black are the ones that I can use for this particular job. And that's where I'm going to indicate right here which ones I want in each particular group. You can see I have my black and white group, my color group, and my large format group. And I'll open this window a little bit more so you can see more. So the copier definition name is pretty much what you want to call this. It's not necessarily your machine because we have a place to put the machine name. This is to make it easy for someone who's doing a copier job to understand, what type of copy is being made. So in this case, I'm saying it's an 8.5:11 black and white copy. Now, I might want to put whether it's text or cover as part of the definition, if that affects how my machine runs or it affects my pricing. So I'm the one who's going to determine what the definition name of this definition of this is going to be. To the right of that, I have the ID number. And all this does is allow me to run a report that says I want to associate all of my copier definitions that run on my Docutech in this case as machine number 2 so that I can get total time for that machine rather than time per definition. The field below that is where I'm actually going to select which copier I want this definition to be associated to. So as you can see, I can have more than one copier definition associated to a particular machine. So, and this is a table. At any point in time, I can go under Admin down to my table editor, and I can go down and find my production copiers. And this is where I'm going to list my actual pieces of equipment so that I can assign them to copier definitions. To the right of that, I have the ability to select this as a costing copier. And this is only if you have an opportunity where you might take a job off of the copier that was priced to do this job and put it on another machine that might be more expensive to run. Okay, this is normally done for production purposes. One machine is full and a job needs to get out. So if you put down costing copier, what it means is that if you switch the copier in the job to another one, that it will use the cost for that machine for costing out the job rather than the one that you priced it on. Okay? Below that is where we have our output description. A lot of our customers always had a problem with the word copy in the description of a job on an invoice, they want the customer to know that it's digitally printed and not copied. So rather than change the hard-coded word, we just went ahead and made that field variable so that you can put in whatever it is that you want to say on the invoice to the customer. In this case, I typed in digitally printed rather than the old word that used to say copied. The field below that is the production location, and this is only of use if you have our tracker module, because tracker, which is our shop floor data collection system, allows you to have it automatically update the location of a job when somebody clicks on that job in the tracker console window and hits the start button. Okay? Below that is the OEM device ID number. PrintSmith has the ability to integrate with a fiery controller. Okay, so if you have a color copier or black and white copier that has a fiery controller on it, you do have the ability to integrate straight from PrintSmith to it. Okay, and you're probably going to need the service department's help because you'll have to install a couple of pieces of software and they'll have to show you how to integrate the two, but it is possible. If you do set it up to do that, what will happen is that when you create a job in PrintSmith, you'll have a submit button on your work in progress or within the job itself, where you can actually send over the job information. You know, what's the quantity ordered, how many originals, one-sided or two-sided, what kind of paper it's on, and all the basic information associated with that job that you've already created in PrintSmith. And in return, when the job is done, it'll feed back a status update, it'll tell you how many copies you've made, and an approximate time of how long it took to do it. So once again, if it's something you're interested in doing, then you just need to call the service team, and they'll go ahead and help you set that up. You're also going to need to turn on this button right here that says that it is an integrated device. The cost center field below that, this is for using our scheduler module. So if you're using scheduler, you're going to have all your different cost centers down here, which is, again, once again, your machines, so that when you put a job using this definition, scheduler knows what machine you want to load that job onto. Okay, in the upper right-hand corner, you have the ability to add charges. So if you wanted to attach a RIP charge to a copier definition or maybe some finishing or things like that, you would just click on the Add Charges. It opens up your charge definition window, and you can go ahead and pick the charges that you want to associate with that copier definition. Below that, you have the ability to add waste, so that if you want to have some running spoilage associated with your copier definition, you can create a waste chart for it the same way you would for a press definition, so that the program will calculate some spoilage during the course of the run. Keeping in mind that if you quote the customer a price per copy, it's going to be off a little bit because of the fact that if the program is using waste, it's going to charge for waste. Okay? Before I get to the methods, I want to go over this window right down in here. This is the costing window for copier definitions. And I understand that most people don't go into great detail when determining what a copy costs them, but you just need to understand that the program has the ability to help you calculate it. In the first field, I have the copies per minute field. And this is strictly where I'm going to put in how many copies on the average the machine will produce in a minute. So if my machine's capable of doing 105 copies a minute, it's not going to average that, so I might lower it to 90 or 95. So the program knows how long a job should take in order to produce it. Below that is the monthly burden rate. And this is a number that some people have a big difficulty in coming up with, because the monthly burden rate is how much of the overhead is this particular piece of equipment going to carry. So if your overhead is maybe $30,000 a month, and this includes your rent, your utilities, your non-production employees, anything that you have to pay that's not billable to a job, okay, that number is your overhead number. So that number needs to be absorbed by all your different pieces of equipment so that you can bill it out. So if I determine that my copiers are going to carry $10,000 of that overhead per month, then I might assign maybe $5,000 or $6,000 to this particular copier, in this case my Docutech. So that's the number I'm going to put in here, how much monthly overhead this machine is going to carry. Below that, I have my monthly labor. This is the person who runs the machine. So I'm going to put in there what this person makes, so that amount of money is going to be added to my cost per copy. Below that is my click cost. What does it cost me for every impression that is made? Below that, I have my maximum and minimum size the machine runs. so that I don't accidentally put a size sheet that's too big or too small on this particular copier definition. Because remember, you want that to reflect your definition name, not necessarily what the machine will handle. So if I have an 1117 definition like I do right here, I want to put in 8.511 here so I make sure that if somebody's doing 1117 copies, the program warns them that they're using the wrong definition. To the top right of that, I'm going to put in how many days I'm open per year. In this case, I'm saying 265, whatever it is. What my monthly payment is on the machine. What % of time is the machine actually being used? Okay, so maybe if the machine's capable of doing 500,000 copies a month, and I actually do 100,000 copies a month, then my usage is 20% in that particular case. Okay, below that is the hourly costing rate, and this is if you're using our tracker module. This allows Tracker to figure out how much it costs to run the machine beyond what was anticipated. So the machine is going to calculate a cost per copy, but if you exceed the time allocated, the machine has to know how much to add per hour for costing out that machine from the time it was supposed to be finished till the time it's actually finished. The labor per copy, toner per copy, and developer per copy, I don't use these much anymore because I use a monthly labor instead of a labor per copy, because if you use labor per copy, the assumption is that every month you're doing about the same amount of copies. And since it can vary quite a bit, then I recommend you use the monthly labor because you're paying the person the same amount whether they do 100,000 copies or 500,000 copies. Toner and developer are usually included in the cost of your supplies or your maintenance contract or whatever it is, but if you do pay for toner and developer, you can go ahead and add that amount in here as well. We'll leave copy markup blank for now as well. Open hours per day, this is how many hours per day this machine is available to make copies. In this case, I'm saying it's 10. If you pay any monthly maintenance on the machine, that's what you put in here as well. And what the program is going to do is it's actually going to show you what your machine cost per copy is. It really has no effect on your sell price to the customer unless you want it to, but it's just to show you how low you can go on a copy and still not be losing money on it. Keeping in mind that this does not include paper. This is strictly the cost for the copy itself. So normally for just 20-pound bond, you would want to add about 0.5 penny, and then you can see this would be about 2 cents a copy cost. You'll also note if I change anything, like this to 8, my cost per copy goes up. The same way if I lower my percentage to 20%, once again, my machine cost per copy goes up. So the more accurate you are in these fields right here, the more accurate your cost per copy is so that you can make sure that you're making money on all the copies that you do. Once again, it doesn't really have any effect on the sell price of the customer unless you choose it to. So let's take a look at that. So if I use my cost plus method, okay, now it's going to use this number. So I'm going to say maybe up to 100 copies. I want to do a markup of 1.5 over and above my cost. And then maybe at 1,000, I'm going to do a 1.3, and maybe at 5,000, I'll do a 1.2. Now, the one thing about the cost plus method is currently we only have 3 price breaks that you can give it. We're looking at a future release of giving you more fields so that because more and more of our customers seem to want to go to the cost plus method, so we're looking at enhancing that so that you can actually have more fields that you can add for price breaks. But that's strictly what it's going to do. It's going to take your cost and it's going to mark it up by whatever your markup is in here based upon the quantity. The cost per copy field is in case you want to add any additional money for costing. I don't normally see any reason why you'd normally do that, so normally this field is blank. Your second option is the flat rate method. And the flat rate method is where you're saying is that I'm going to charge, in this case down here where I have rate per copy, I'm going to charge 7 cents a copy. No matter how many originals, no matter how many copies the customer is making, I'm going to charge a flat rate of 7 cents. My next option is copies and originals. When I turn this on, you'll see I get my edit matrix options. So if I click on my edit matrix at this point, you can see now that I can base my price on the number of originals the customer is furnishing and the number of copies they're making. And I can see up to 1 would be this column, 2 to 5 would be this column, 6 to 10 this column, and so on down the line. And you can change any of these numbers just by clicking on it and changing it. The same way with my number of copies. 1 copy would be 15 cents. 2 to 10 would be 7.5. Up to 20 would be 5, and so on down the line. So this is your way of doing it if you want to charge by the number of originals and the number of copies. You need to keep in mind, though, that you need to fill in all the numbers. There's no automatic formulation that will come up with the pricing for you. And as long as you stay above your cost, then you're doing okay. Your next option is copies per original. You're getting a smaller matrix at this point, and all the price is determined by is how many copies are being made for each original. So if I have 10 copies and I'm making 10 copies each, it's going to strictly go for the 10 copies price. In this case, 7.5 cents. All right? If I switch this now to total of all copies, what's going to change at this point is my matrix looks the same, but now the price is based upon the total copies. So once again, if I have 10 copies of 10 originals, it's now going to use the 100 copy price because in total I'm making 100 copies of this particular job. Okay? So those are your options for calculating side 1 of a copier definition. For calculating side 2, I'm going to come down here, and here are my options for that. Not changing prices is that means that the second side is free. There's no additional charge for copying the second side. Not used a lot, but there are some customers that use it kind of as a promotion, saying if you copy side 1, we'll give you the second side at no additional cost. The next option is using first side rate. And all this means is that if I'm charging 15 cents for side 1, the program is going to charge another 15 cents for side 2. Okay? So it's the same price on both sides. Using second side rate now, that's going to open up another column on my matrix. Okay, so now I have a side 1 price and a side 2 price. But what you have to understand here is that this is the price per side. So if I want to charge 15 cents for a one-sided copy, it's going to be 15 cents right here. If I want to charge 22 cents for two-sided copies, it's going to be 11 here because the program does not add the 2 columns together. See, it's the price per side. For a two-sided job, it's 11 cents a side, not 15 plus 7. Okay? So that's the main thing you need to remember is that if it's a one-sided job, it uses this column. If it's a two-sided job, it uses this column twice. Okay? So the next option is counting as more originals. And this is another way of giving a customer a better price. So what the program is going to do is it's going to treat, let's say, 5 two-sided copies as 10 one-sided copies. So really, in effect, what it's doing is it's moving you further down the matrix if you're using the total of all copies method. So if I had 100 of 5 originals two-sided, it's going to use the 200 quantity because it's going to go further down the matrix in order to give the customer the better price, which actually is going to be actually the 1,000 price. So it's 500 of two-sided, which is actually 1,000 copies. Okay? So this method right here, the counting as more originals and the total of all copies, is going to give your customer the best price possible. Okay? If I go down to the last option, using side 2 factor, all that does is take whatever the price is for side 1 and it multiplies it by the factor that I put in here. So in this case, I'm saying take the side 1 price and mark it up by 50%, which is a 1.5 factor. Okay? So we'll put this back. We'll use using first side rate for right now. Now let's take a look at how it's going to handle your stock. So included in rate means that whatever your price is on the matrix, that's the price the customer is going to get. It doesn't matter what stock you choose. It's only going to charge them the price that's on the matrix. If I switch this to marked up stock cost, now what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and add paper just like it would to a printing job. So if it's 15 cents for a copy, it's then going to go ahead and look to your stock definitions. It's going to find the stock you chose, whatever your price per 1,000 or rate is that you have in there. It's going to pick that, and then it's going to add whatever your normal markup is to that stock and then add it to your cost per copy. You do have the option to use a different markup for copier jobs. So in this case, if I turn this button on, I can say, you know what? When it's a copy job, I only want to add a 20% markup to the paper, whereas maybe on a printing job, I'm going to add a 40 or 50% mark on paper. This gives you the versatility to have two markups, one for printing jobs, one for copy jobs. Okay? The next three options are the ability to add a specific price for paper to a job. So if I click on Copier 1 and Stock Definitions, what that means is that if I go into pricing to my stock definitions, and I pick a stock that's other than like my 20-pound bond, and I'll find an 8.511 here somewhere. Let's go ahead and find something. Let's just pick Classic Crest color, and I'll open this up. And if I go under the Pricing Options tab, I have these fields right down here. This is Copier 1, this is Copier 2, and this is Copier 3. So in this case, under Copier 1, I'm saying add 4 cents to my matrix price every time you use this paper for each copy. So if my copy price is 15 cents, when I choose this paper, it's actually going to charge 19 cents because I'm telling the program to add 4 cents to this particular paper. So that's why if I put this side by side, you can see under here, I've got Copier 1, 2, and 3, and in the stock definition, I have 1, 2, and 3 as well. So the reason we give you 3 options is so that you can have a different price for black and white copies, a different price for color copies, and a different one for large format as well. Okay? So those are your options for how the program is going to handle paper. Now let's take a look at the matrix itself. Okay? So I have a couple options here. Matrix's copy cost means that when I open up the matrix, okay, if I want 100 copies, it's going to charge 429 cents a piece for those 100 copies. That's the copy cost. If I use it as a step table and have those same 100 copies, what it's going to do is charge 15 cents for the first copy, 7.5 cents for the next 9, 5 cents for the next 10, 4.4 cents for the next 30, and only 4.29 cents for the last 50 copies being made. It literally steps the copy price up. Okay? So that's the difference between a step table and a copy cost table. Now, if I switch it to a discount table, you'll notice that my copy price, you see that? My copy markup changed to say base rate. Because what happens is, at this point is, if I go to my matrix, now this becomes a discount percentage. So at one copy, what I'm going to do here is on my base rate I would put in is 15 cents. Then I'm going to go to my matrix and say, okay, at one copy, charge 100% of that. At 10 copies, charge 95% of that. Or at 20 copies, 90. At 50 copies, maybe 88. And so on down the line. I'm basically taking my base rate price and I'm multiplying it by this factor to give the customer a discount on the base rate based upon the quantity that they've ordered. Okay? All right, so let's change this back to copy costs, because the other thing you want to know about copy costs is that you do have the ability to interpolate the matrix values. What this means is that when you open the matrix, okay, these do not become hard breaks anymore. So if you leave this button off, if the customer orders 51 copies, chances are it's going to be cheaper than 50 copies was because the whole price is going to be based upon the 100 copy price. If I turn on the interpolate matrix values, what happens is that the program finds the in-between numbers. So if the customer orders 15 copies, it's going to charge 6.25 cents a copy because it's finding the number in between 10 and 20. This way, it never becomes cheaper for the whole job to order more copies. It gives you more of a curve just the way it would to a press definition. Okay? And so I'm going to go ahead. That's pretty much what it is for the straight copies. I'm going to go ahead and unmute for a second just to make sure that nobody has any questions here. I'm going to click it and I'll unmute. Oops, let's see. I want to unmute all. Okay, now you can all hear me again. Are there any questions about that part of it at this point? We're all good?
Ron?
Good.
I
Yeah.
have a question. Basically, when you upgrade to this new PrintSmith, do any of these copier definitions come preloaded that you can then go in and make changes, or do you have to start from scratch?
We don't alter your existing copier definitions, because that would be a little confusing to people. But what you can do is you can always download a demo and see what the changes are, and then this way you can create your own copier definitions and seeing what we did.
Okay, but we've got an old PrintSmith that we don't have copier definitions maybe. So pulling that in as new technology, we would have to load everything, correct?
Once again, if you download a demo, okay, I want to show you something that's actually brand new to the software. We're not showing this to everybody yet, but I'll show it to you now anyway, because you have under Preferences, if you're at 8010, okay, under your Preferences, under System Behavior, you have the ability to enable the pricing import-export functionality.
Hey, Ron, just so you know, we're not seeing at least I'm not seeing the copier definition window anymore.
You're not? Is anybody else not seeing it?
Yeah.
No, I'm not seeing it either.
All right, but said it was sharing, so share. How's that? You with me?
Yep.
There we go.
All right, sorry about that. All right, so again, I went under Admin to Preferences, all right, and I opened up under System Behavior. We have this new functionality called Enable Pricing System Import-Export Features, okay? If I turn that on, all right, and I close the copier definition window, and I'll just go ahead and save what I've done, and I reopen it again, you see there's a button down here to export?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you actually have the ability, if you want to, you can install a demo, take the ones you want, export them out, okay, it saves it as an XML file on your desktop, okay? Then under the File menu, there's a new feature called, where is it? Where's my import? I hope I don't just quit out of it. Well, I might have to quit out of it to get it back in. So I'll just tell you that under the File menu, there's a field called File Import, normally, okay? And what you can do is you can import those copier definitions right into yours.
So that'll activate when you close the software and reload, you mean?
Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up now. It's probably because I have PrintSmith running at the time. And normally, whenever you turn something on, you got to quit and start it up again. Because
Right.
I don't see it here. I thought it was under the File menu. This is brand new. We've just released it, and I'm positive it's under the File import. I don't want to quit out of PrintSmith because I'm afraid if I start it up, you'll all be blown out again. So it's under here. It'll say File Import. Okay.
So, and that would apply to press definitions, anything else we happen to have in there as well?
It'll do press definitions, copier definitions, stock definitions, and charge definitions.
Okay.
Okay. We're kind of using this as a replacement for the old ability to copy prices folders from one system to the other.
Right.
Since that functionality doesn't work anymore, we created this new export-import, which I think actually is going to work better because now you can pick and choose what things you want to export and import rather than doing the whole prices folder.
Yeah, you get the entire thing whether you want it or not.
Right. We're hoping this is a way for people to share definitions and things like that. So I'm kind of excited about the new functionality. I say it's brand new. We just finished it. It was actually supposed to be in the original 8.0, wasn't ready, so we just kept working on it, and when it finally was ready, we just added it in a rev release.
Now,
so
is that eventually going to be available for, like, customer and account importing and exporting?
That's whole nother story, and we're working on that. I'm not going to really get into that too much today, but we are looking at a lot of integrations for PrintSmith.
Cool.
Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually, you know what, I'll leave it unmuted because it seems pretty quiet right now. So I'll go on to the large format because this is also new functionality that we've added.
Well, actually, I had a couple of questions, Ron.
Sure.
First off, the copier definitions is we're on a master client system, and the copier definitions are only available from the master system. There's no way to log in from the workstation as an admin and be able to do the copier definitions?
That's correct. Our master is a standalone type system. I mean, you can always take over the master. You could log on, you know, using PC Anywhere or Timbuktu if you're on a Mac and take it over.
What I'm doing now, but
right.
It just would be kind of easier just to do it from the workstation, but
correct. It's just not the way you
remain that way.
For today, that's the way it is. Will it be forever? I never say never. We're always looking at ways to enhance the software and change it. But right now, you can only create copiers and presses and charges at the master.
Okay. Other question is, for the monthly labor, say I have multiple operators running the same machine, you know, throughout the day and whatnot. Which, and say if they are, you know, they make different rates. So would I just take all of their rates per month and then make an average out for that?
Absolutely.
And then put that number in there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You just want to make sure that you're covering their salaries in your copy cost.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a lot of averaging. If they do, sometimes the copier people will do some bindery work at the same time, so then you would only put part of their salary in the monthly labor.
Right.
It's however much time they're spending working on a particular copier.
Okay. Another question is in the copy range area, there's the cost per copy that you really didn't get into.
Well, like I said, this is if you wanted to add additional costs beyond what's already here.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I don't use this field a whole lot, because to me, this should be all your costs.
Okay.
There shouldn't be any reason to add any additional costs right here.
Okay. And then last question is, could you go a little deeper into the hourly costing rate?
The hourly, this one right here?
Yeah.
This is if you have our tracker module, okay?
Right.
So right now, tracker is going to say that your cost per copy is 2 cents a piece.
Okay.
And it's basing it upon your speed of the machine and how long it should take to get the job done. Okay? So if the job's supposed to take an hour, and it does take an hour, everything is fine, this field does nothing.
Okay.
But if the job was supposed to take an hour and it took an hour and 20 minutes,
okay,
the program has to know what the machine cost is per hour so that it knows how much additional cost to add to that job, because it doesn't want to add the clicks anymore or any of these other fields because they don't get charged. All it needs to know is what's the hourly cost of the machine so that it can add that cost to the job.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense now.
Okay?
And is there a preferred method that most of your customers use, or is it just...
The most common methodology is total of all copies and counting as more originals. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Counting as more originals, because this gives the customer the best price possible.
Okay.
Okay? That gives them all the benefits. So basically it's adding up all the clicks, okay, that you're making, and it's basing the price on the total clicks being made. Not the total copies, the total clicks.
Right.
So this gives the customer the best price they can possibly get on that particular job.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
All right. Let's take a look at large format.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
On the export option, is that going to give you an Excel table that you literally could look through?
No, this is just going to give you an Excel file of exactly what you're looking at on screen. Okay, you can actually open up the Excel file and text edit or something if you want to see what it's bringing in, but it's strictly an XML file. It's not formatted in any way that, you can kind of look at it as like a grid or something like that.
Yeah, I think you thought you meant Excel, like a spreadsheet versus
No, it's not Excel, it's XML.
Oh, okay, missed one letter.
Yeah, it's an XML file. It's the actual code file.
Okay.
All right, and so we formatted it so it will bring it right into the program and put it where it should be. Okay? All right, any other questions, or go on to large format?
Go ahead.
Okay, we'll go on. All right, so when you're dealing with large format now, this is fairly new functionality that we added. Okay? This gives you the ability now to have the program calculate by square area rather than by the number of copies. So what's really changed here is that now you're going to have a length per minute rather than a copies per minute, and normally we calculate this in inches, because if you want to do it in feet, you can, but that just means that when you're in a job, everything has to be calculated by feet. So if you had a poster that was 24 by 36, you got to call it 2 by 3, otherwise the program's going to think it's 24 feet by 36 feet. So that's what this calculation here is. How many inches per minute can your large format machine output? Okay. What's also going to change here is now you have a maximum width and a minimum width, because length is irrelevant. That's going to be variable. Okay. And what really changes is your pricing methods. You'll see my top grouping now is grayed out, and now I have my bottom grouping in here. So the first option is square area and originals. So when I look at my matrix, it looks just like my sheet fed or my standard copying for a number of originals, except now instead of the number of copies, this is the square area that you're doing. And in this case, you can see I have 144, which is 1 square foot, or 1440, which is 10 square foot, so on down the line. So this price right now is the price per square inch that you're charging, not for the number of copies or anything else.
And I'm sorry, Ron, going back to the square area, the first field, that's supposed to be put in as square inches per minute? Or just...
No, this is the length, okay? Because remember now is that, the program, it's going to go left to right no matter what. It's how much is the paper going to advance in each minute.
Gotcha.
Okay? All right, so your next option is total of square area. This one, again, you're going to get the smaller matrix, and now the price is based upon the total square area being produced in the job. Okay, so once again, if it's a 10-foot poster, it's going to use the 1440 price. It's the total square area. Okay, now you do have the option to have the program calculate this by the run size or the finished size, because there are some people that say, well, even though my roll is 36 inches wide, if the poster is only 24 inches wide, I can't charge the customer for the other 12 inches that I'm not imaging, because I'm already giving them a price per square foot. Okay, if you want to charge by the finished size, then you would click here. Then no matter how wide the roll is, it's only going to calculate your price based upon the size of the finished piece that you're producing. Either way, it's going to calculate the amount of paper you're using. It's just going to treat the excess paper as waste paper rather than its imaged paper. Okay? So you want to keep this in mind as well, because, again, if you do it by the square area from the run size, whatever the width of the roll is and the length, that's what it's going to charge for the piece, no matter what size the finished piece is. Okay? The next option is square area and copies. Now, what this is changing is rather than this being by, this is now going to be priced by the number of copies that you're making. So the price will start discounting by print. So if they want 5 copies of the same piece, it's going to base the price on that rather than the total area that you're producing. Okay? This gives you the difference between one print of 5 posters or 5 prints of 1 poster. The 5 prints of 1 poster will come out cheaper than the 1 print of 5 posters. Okay? And then lastly on here is square area per copy, and this is once again is this matrix here would be like this is the price for 1 copy. This is up to 5 and then 10 and 20 and so on. So this is the price per square inch, but the price gets discounted not by the area but the number of prints the customer is making off of each original.
And the interpolate matrix values acts the same as with the other copiers?
Absolutely. It finds all the in-between prices. And I highly recommend that you do the interpolate, because once again, if you don't, you have these hard breaks where somebody gets something a little bit bigger and the whole job gets cheaper rather than something smaller.
Okay.
And that's why we added the interpolate, is so that you have that ability to do that. Okay? So that's pretty much it for the large format. The difference is it's charging by area rather than by the number of prints you're making. In your stock definitions now, just to reiterate, to show you that you do have the ability to show, large format stock. And what this does is, let me go to my rolls. I think I have one in here. Maybe I don't. I might not have one in this one. Okay, but I'll clear it. Go ahead and hit done. What you can see is when you're doing stock definitions and you're doing it by large format, the main difference is that your stock now is calculated by area. Okay, so you have your minimum order length, and you have your costing units would be the square area of a roll, and your cost is the cost for the entire roll. And in this way, the program can add the stock on top. Because if I go back to my definition, let me know if you're not keeping up here, but if I go back to my definition, that's where I can do it, where I can do it marked up stock cost, where it'll calculate the area of the stock that I need, add my markup to it, and add that to my matrix price. Or I can just say use from copier 3 in stock definitions, where it's going to go ahead and I tell it how much to add per square inch in the stock definition, so it adds it on top of my matrix price for the copies. Okay? So that's pretty much going through the copier definitions. Is there any questions that you have on large format, or have we got it all and you understand it?
Stock price list button at the bottom there, that'll just drive you to the paper definition?
Yeah, it basically gives you the ability to see what this definition would cost with a stock. So I would open this up, it opens up my stock list and says, okay, what stock do you want to price it with? And it generates you kind of a quick price list to see.
Gotcha.
It's mainly for internal testing. It's really not meant to give to the customer, but if you want to see how your pricing is coming out, it's a quick way to go ahead and pick your copier definition and then pick a stock with it, see, okay, what is my stock going to be on a matrix?
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yep.
We've added some new functionality down here as well, just so that you know. We've changed these buttons, so now you can go ahead, if you just want to duplicate a definition, you can just hit the duplicate button, and it'll automatically create a new format for you to go ahead and change. Once you've made changes, if you decide you don't like your changes, it'll give you the option to revert it back to the way it is. So we've enhanced this functionality as well to make it a little bit easier for our customers to use. You always know that you can always go ahead and just hold down the Option key on the Mac or the Alt key on the PC and then just click and drag down right below the one you have, and it'll make an exact duplicate of it. Okay?
The copier digital price list, is that similar to the stock price list where it just shows you what the actual copy costs are?
This is what the cost is without paper.
Gotcha.
So if you just want to see what your pricing is going to look like on a matrix, this is so you can make sure that by buying one more, the whole price of the job doesn't get cheaper.
Right.
So if you're using the hard breaks, this is a good way to test to make sure that you're not doing that. But once again, if you use the interpolate function, that will never happen. Right. But at least you can look on the price list and see what your pricing is going to be. Just remember, if you use the interpolate, you can no longer publish pricing. Like say, up to 100 copies is a nickel and things like that, because if you go one copy over, the program is going to start manipulating your price to come up with what it should be.
Right.
It seems to be where most people are going anyway. They're getting away from the published copy price, and they're doing it more as quotes on individual jobs. Any other questions? You're all comfortable?
We're good.
Anything that doesn't flow well or you don't like? Just out of curiosity, since we have a few minutes.
Okay, for instance, say open days per year and open hours per day. What if you go over the values that you have plugged in there?
Well, it's just going to change your cost per copy. Once again, this does not affect the price to the customer. Okay. I believe normally, 253 days is the standard working days in a year minus holidays. So that's what I normally would put in there, is like 253. But just figure out how many days you're actually open for business, and that just tells the program how many days you're available to collect costs, so that this number will go down. Because I'm amazed at how many customers I go to who are selling copies for 3 cents a piece all day long. We do this little exercise, and this number comes out to be higher than 3 cents a copy.
Okay.
So once again, it's not to say that you have to sell it above this. It's just so that if you go below that number, and then remember, this does not include paper, that you're actually selling copies for below your cost.
Right.
Anything else? We're all good? Like I say, hopefully this helps you understand copies a little bit better. We're continually enhancing it, trying to make it more calculating so that you can figure out what your true costs are, so you're making money, so it makes your pricing more evenly distributed. And, I think we're getting pretty close to where it really needs to be. But we're always open for enhancements. If you have any ideas or suggestions, just go ahead and email it to printsmith.service@efi.com, and we'll be happy to add it to the enhancement database list. Okay?
Okay, great.
Okay.
All right. If we're all good, then thanks for attending, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.